Hey everyone, me Kevin here with updates on the 2020 election and what this election means for stimulus relief. We'll also talk about what Joe Biden's campaign just said, and unfortunately COVID is surging close to the 150,000 case prediction I made just 3 weeks ago. The unemployment rate also just fell to 6.9%. Let's hit the updates. Georgia has just declared that we will have a recount of the Georgia vote. Georgia presently flipped to a Biden lead of 1,500 votes. Here's where we stand. Georgia is at 1,584 votes in favor of Biden. Very close, razor-thin margin. Georgia still has 4,000 votes to be counted. Arizona is in Biden's favor by now over 43,700 votes, but there may be a recount in Arizona as well. The gap in Nevada has widened to 20,500 votes from yesterday's 8,000 and 11,000 votes in favor of Biden. There was also a peaceful protest yesterday outside of Nevada's counting center. In Pennsylvania, Biden now leads by 9,854 votes. These are big flips. The flips of Georgia and Pennsylvania to Biden were not expected. These are now all Biden leads, with the exception of the battleground state of North Carolina, which Donald Trump still has a stronghold in with a lead of 76,701 votes. As a result, this morning, Nancy Pelosi basically claimed victory for Joe Biden when she said, "This morning it is clear that Joe Biden will win the White House." This has also led to the question of what happens if Donald Trump refuses to concede the election. And Joe Biden's campaign has responded. If Trump does not concede, Joe Biden's campaign says the U.S. government is, quote, perfectly capable of escorting trespassers out of the White House. This then brings up the question of lawsuits. So here's where we stand on lawsuits. A federal judge in Philadelphia has dismissed a lawsuit to halt counting in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania, he mentioned this on Twitter, be Republican or Democratic or both. And they're allowed to be within 6 feet to, quote, meaningfully observe the counting. The administration's lawsuit alleges that Republicans were not given access to the observer, ballot counting area. Their observers weren't allowed in. However, in court, Trump's attorneys admitted that they were able to get inside, but argued that Democrats were able to get close. Ordered that both sides will look, in addition to another federal judge ordering a sweeping of all postal services in Pennsylvania and just to look for missing ballots. And they ended up finding 1,700 ballots. And in a state where Biden's leading by just about 8,000 votes, all of these votes really matter a lot. Now, we already know this on lost lawsuits, but just to recap to understand a trend here, on November 5th, a lawsuit by the Trump administration was thrown out by a Michigan court saying, because the Trump administration wanted to halt voting, and they stated that the counting boards have completed their functions and the ship has sailed. On November 5th as well, a lawsuit in Georgia was thrown out. And this is again from the Trump administration. The court said the court finds there is no evidence that ballots referenced in the petition and the lawsuit were received after 7 p.m. on Election Day. A lawsuit in Texas right before Election Day was also thrown out to stop polling through drive-through polling places. So far, the mainstream media is calling all of these Trump lawsuits Hail Marys that a lot of them may just end up falling on the ground, but maybe one of them will catch. But unfortunately, so far, if you are a Trump supporter, they have not been supporting his campaign. Now, this also comes as Pennsylvania's Attorney General is urging the U.S. Supreme Court to reject any intervention into the election. We are now well over 120,000 cases. We are up 54% over the last 14 days. We are at 1,108 deaths, down a bit from yesterday, but still up 8% on a 14-day average. Masks are in short supply again, so if you need a mask and you are in risk or at risk, I highly encourage you watch my mask video. You can just type into YouTube, Meet Kevin Masks. Watch that. On jobs, and then we'll get to stimulus, the unemployment rate fell sharply to 6.9% from 7.9% this morning. We added about 638,000 jobs. It's a much slower success rate than what we've been used to in the past few months, but it's still better than not. However, the Labor Department did also say that those without work for 27 weeks or more is now up to 3.6 million people, which is not good. That's an increase of 1.2 million people in October. And remember, on a weekly basis, we're still losing around 1 million jobs, people filing for unemployment. That's also not good. Now, this job gain of 638,000 is a netted figure, right? So they take out the jobs we lost, but it still goes to show there's a whole lot of hurt out there. Restaurants added jobs, retail added jobs, but the Economic Policy Institute says overall, up to 30 million people may have lost their jobs or had their hours cut as of today, looking at this entire pandemic. It's been a tough situation. On stimulus, here's a quick fun fact and then an update. Opportunity Insights says that the PPP boosted employment by of about 1.5 million jobs, but the entire program ended up costing about $300,000 per person. It would have almost been better just giving $50,000 checks to those 1.5 million people, and they would have saved $250,000 per person. Mostly white-collar firms also got the PPP, and these were firms that had the highest capacity to work from home. Nancy Pelosi provided an update for us on stimulus. She is calling on Republicans to come back to the table and negotiate a larger stimulus package. She will not go for a small bill, she says. She wants her large package. She says that we need to crush the virus in order for stimulus to work. Republicans like Mitch McConnell have suggested doing a smaller bill than $2.4 trillion during the lame duck session of Congress. However, Nancy Pelosi says that won't happen. Instead, she sets her eyes and focus on Georgia, where 2 runoff elections could mean Democrats could clinch a tie in the Senate, which any tie would then be broken by Kamala Harris as the presiding officer, giving Democrats complete control. She instead says that the Trump administration has a disdain for science, and instead we should be focused on providing proper scientific-based support for the economy, the vaccine, testing and tracing and treatments. We should also be honoring our police, our firemen and women, our teachers with proper funding, state and local government relief, vaccine funding, $1,200 stimulus checks, $600 per week in retroactive unemployment pay, housing aid, and more. The government shutdown that is coming on December 11th is hopefully going to be resolved before we hit any kind of shutdown debacle again. Both Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi agree that we need a full new budget, not just a kick the can down the road type continuing resolution that we had last time. That's the update for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it helpful, please consider subscribing, and folks, we'll see you in the next video.